How to improve your English. Alex stared at the job application, a dream opportunity shimmering just out of reach. The requirement: fluent English. A sigh escaped, heavy with years of frustration. Despite countless hours studying grammar books and memorizing vocabulary lists, speaking felt like scaling an insurmountable mountain. The words often tangled, coherence elusive, confidence non-existent in real conversations. This time, Alex vowed, things would be different. The internet became Alex's new best friend, a vast ocean of how to improve your English articles. Pages and videos promised shortcuts, but deep down, Alex knew consistent effort was the true key. One particular blog post caught their eye, titled, "Let Me Tell You Talking Tips," emphasizing the often overlooked power of self-dialogue. It sparked a tiny flicker of hope, a novel approach to a daunting challenge. The article stressed that the biggest hurdle was often the fear of making mistakes. How to take first step for talking, it asked rhetorically. The answer was surprisingly simple: start where you are, with what you have, and without judgment. It wasn't about perfect grammar or complex sentences initially, but about breaking the silence, about giving your voice permission to articulate thoughts, even hesitant ones. Learning English, the article explained, wasn't just about passive absorption, it demanded active participation. It proposed an unconventional, talking tip: turn your home into a language laboratory. Every mundane chore, every quiet moment, could become an opportunity for impromptu speaking practice. The concept resonated with Alex, who often felt too self-conscious to practice around others. This was a safe space. How to practice English daily became Alex's new mantra. The first tangible step was dedicating specific times. Mornings, while making coffee, or evenings, doing dishes, were designated English zones. It felt awkward at first, a strange monologue echoing in an empty room, but the instructions were clear: consistency trumps intensity, especially when building a new habit. The primary goal wasn't perfection, but fluidity. How make confidence in speaking was another key question addressed. The answer involved repetition and desensitization. The more you heard your own voice attempting English, the less foreign it felt. This internal exposure was crucial before external interaction, laying a foundation of self-assurance, little by little, day by day. Listen and practice was a foundational pillar of the strategy. Alex started with simple podcasts and YouTube videos, not just as background noise, but actively trying to mimic intonation and pronunciation. Every new phrase heard was immediately repeated aloud, an echo chamber of new sounds. This active listening sharpened auditory comprehension while training the tongue. Remembering words had always been a struggle. Flashcards felt tedious, and rote memorization rarely stuck. The article offered a more dynamic approach: contextual learning. Instead of isolated words, Alex began to focus on phrases and sentences. When a new word appeared, its surrounding words provided clues, making it easier to recall and use naturally in conversation. How to remember words truly transformed when Alex started associating new vocabulary with personal experiences or vivid images. If ephemeral came up, Alex pictured a fleeting rainbow. This mnemonic technique engaged more parts of the brain, creating stronger, more durable connections. The goal shifted from recall to integration, embedding words into their mental landscape. The most intriguing talking tip was how to talk at home to yourself. It sounded peculiar, even silly, at first. But the rationale was sound. It removed the pressure of an audience, allowing for uninhibited experimentation. Alex began narrating daily activities. I am pouring coffee, the cat is sleeping peacefully, describing thoughts, feelings, and observations. These self-conversations were like mental rehearsals. Alex would imagine hypothetical scenarios, ordering food, asking for directions, giving an opinion. The dialogue wasn't always smooth, often riddled with pauses and rephrasing, but that was the point. It was a safe space for stumbling, for correcting oneself, and for building conversational muscle memory. An essential, yet enjoyable, component was English story reading. Alex started with simplified readers, gradually moving to short novels. Reading exposed them to diverse vocabulary and sentence structures in an engaging format. It also provided topics for their self-talk, discussing characters, plots, and personal reactions, transforming reading into an active speaking exercise. The stories didn't just expand vocabulary, they built intuition for natural English phrasing. Alex noticed how native speakers constructed sentences, how idioms were used, and how dialogue flowed. This passive absorption of linguistic patterns significantly improved their internal grammar checker, making their own spoken sentences sound more natural. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Alex's confidence grew. The initial awkwardness of talking to oneself began to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. The words, once elusive, now found their way to the tip of their tongue with less effort. It was a gradual unfolding, like a flower blooming after steady nourishment. The first step for talking had truly been taken, not by speaking to a stranger, but by befriending their own voice. This internal dialogue built a sturdy bridge between understanding and speaking, a critical link often missing in traditional language learning methods. Alex was ready for the next phase, no longer fearing the sound of their own English. Now equipped with a stronger inner voice, Alex sought low-stakes external practice. Online language exchange partners, non-judgmental and patient, became the next logical step. These were not formal lessons but casual chats, applying the self-talk strategies in a real-world, albeit virtual, setting. It was exciting and a little terrifying simultaneously. Each conversation, no matter how brief or imperfect, reinforced the progress made at home. Mistakes were viewed as learning opportunities, not failures. The self-talk had desensitized Alex to the sound of their own voice, making external interactions feel less daunting. The fear of judgment slowly receded, replaced by genuine curiosity and engagement. The How to Practice English journey became less about rigid rules and more about organic integration into daily life. Alex started labeling objects around the house in English, narrating grocery shopping trips silently in their head, or describing events of the day to an imaginary audience. English was becoming a living part of their routine. Building confidence in speaking was an ongoing process, not a destination. It involved celebrating small victories, successfully ordering food in English, understanding a joke, or articulating a complex idea, even if it took a few tries. Each successful interaction layered another brick in the wall of self-assurance. Listen and practice continued to be fundamental. Alex diversified their listening materials, moving from general podcasts to specific interest areas, cooking shows, documentaries, even interviews with their favorite artists. This made listening enjoyable and relevant, integrating new vocabulary and idiomatic expressions naturally into their understanding. The technique for how to remember words evolved further. Instead of just associating words with images, Alex started using them immediately in their self-talk or during practice sessions. Active usage solidified memory far more effectively than passive recognition. The words became tools, not just isolated pieces of information. The commitment to how to talk at home to yourself never wavered. It remained the bedrock of their fluency journey, a safe harbor for experimentation and a constant source of unpressured practice. Even when tired, a quick mental monologue kept the English circuits engaged, preventing regression and maintaining momentum. English story reading expanded to include diverse genres: science fiction, historical fiction, and non-fiction. Each genre introduced new lexicons and writing styles, broadening Alex's linguistic horizons. The stories provided a rich tapestry of context for new words, making vocabulary acquisition an organic and enjoyable process, rather than a chore. Alex discovered that reading aloud, even to an empty room, was incredibly beneficial. It connected the visual recognition of words with their spoken form, improving pronunciation and rhythm. This active form of reading enhanced both comprehension and speaking fluency, bridging the gap between passive intake and active output. The transformation was remarkable. Alex, who once stammered over simple sentences, now engaged in fluid conversations, expressing complex ideas with growing ease. The initial fear had dissipated, replaced by a genuine joy in communicating. The journey was far from over, but the major hurdles had been gracefully cleared. The dream job interview finally arrived. Alex felt a flutter of nerves, but a deep breath, recalling countless hours of self-talk and practice, brought a sense of calm. This wasn't just an interview, it was a culmination of dedication, a testament to the power of consistent, strategic effort in language acquisition. The interviewers spoke quickly, but Alex understood every nuance, every question. Their responses, though not flawless, were clear, articulate, and confident. The internal practice had prepared them not just for the words, but for the rhythm of English conversation, for thinking on their feet in the target language. "Your English is very impressive," one interviewer remarked, genuinely surprised. Alex smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. It wasn't about perfection, but effective communication. The compliment validated every awkward self-talk session, every stumbled sentence, every word memorized with a vivid image. It felt incredibly rewarding. Alex got the job. The international role, once a distant fantasy, was now a tangible reality. This was more than just a job, it was a gateway to new experiences, new cultures, and a testament to the transformative power of language. English was no longer a barrier but a bridge connecting them to the world. The journey of how to improve your English began with a single, crucial decision: to stop wishing and start doing. It was a conscious shift from passive consumption to active creation, from textbook rules to real-world application. The path was gradual, requiring patience and perseverance, but the rewards were immeasurable. The core, talking tips, proved invaluable. They demystified the speaking process, breaking it down into manageable, less intimidating steps. Instead of overwhelming oneself with the entire language, Alex focused on micro-improvements, celebrating each small victory along the way, fostering continuous motivation and progress. The first step for talking was indeed the hardest, but once taken, it opened up a cascade of further opportunities. It was the moment of committing to audible output, regardless of quality, that truly jump-started the fluency engine. Silence, Alex learned, was the enemy of spoken language development. How to learn English became less about academics and more about immersion and practical application. It transformed into a lifestyle choice, where English was woven into the fabric of daily activities, making learning an organic, ongoing process rather than a separate, scheduled task. This holistic approach accelerated their progress significantly. How to practice English effectively meant finding joy in the process. Alex found that by focusing on topics of personal interest, practice never felt like a chore. Whether debating a movie plot with themselves or describing a cooking recipe, relevance kept the engagement high and the learning consistent. The journey to how make confidence in speaking was deeply intertwined with self-acceptance. Alex learned to embrace imperfections, understanding that fluency doesn't mean speaking without errors, but speaking without hesitation. It was about conveying meaning effectively, even with an accent or occasional grammatical slip-up. Listen and practice was a cyclical process. As listening comprehension improved, so did the quality and speed of spoken responses. The ear trained the mouth, and the mouth reinforced the ear, creating a virtuous circle of continuous linguistic refinement and automaticity. This dual approach was highly effective. The refined method for how to remember words was to immediately use new vocabulary in context. Alex kept a small notebook for new phrases, not just single words. They made a conscious effort to integrate these phrases into their next self-talk session or online chat, cementing them into active memory. The technique of how to talk at home to yourself became a cornerstone. It wasn't just about practicing, it was about building a safe mental space where English could flow freely, without the pressure of external judgment. This internal freedom translated into more confident external interactions. English story reading continued to be a source of inspiration and vocabulary. Alex found that discussing the themes and characters of the stories with themselves or language partners greatly enhanced comprehension and retention. It turned reading from a solitary activity into a conversational springboard. Alex recognized that improving English was a marathon, not a sprint. There were days of frustration, moments of doubt, but consistent application of these strategies kept the momentum going. Each small step, meticulously taken, added up to significant long-term gains in fluency and confidence. The most profound realization was that true improvement stemmed from shifting the focus from knowing English to using English. It wasn't about accumulating knowledge in a passive way, but about actively engaging with the language, making it a functional tool for thought and communication. This active engagement was the secret sauce. By turning every available moment into a practice opportunity, Alex transformed their environment into a rich, immersive English-speaking bubble, accelerating their progress far beyond traditional classroom settings alone. The world became their language school. The initial awkwardness of self-talk had evolved into a comfortable, natural habit. Alex often caught themselves thinking in English, processing daily events and planning future actions entirely in the target language. This internal shift was a clear indicator of deep linguistic integration. The fear of making mistakes, once paralyzing, had significantly diminished. Alex understood that errors were simply stepping stones to correction and improvement, natural parts of the learning process. This new mindset fostered a brave, experimental approach to speaking, allowing for rapid growth. Confidence wasn't something magically acquired, it was diligently built through consistent, low-pressure practice. Each successful communication, no matter how small, reinforced the belief in their own capabilities, chipping away at self-doubt and replacing it with empowered self-assurance. The power of listen and practice was evident in Alex's improved pronunciation and natural rhythm. Mimicking native speakers, without worrying about perfection, gradually molded their accent and intonation, making their speech clearer and more pleasant to the ear. It was about absorbing the music of the language. Remembering words became effortless when they were part of a narrative, a conversation, or a personal experience. The brain naturally connects new information to existing frameworks, and Alex leveraged this by making vocabulary acquisition an active, contextual, and often playful endeavor. The quiet courage to talk at home to yourself provided the foundational space for growth. It was a no-judgment zone where every thought, every feeling, every observation could be translated into English, solidifying neural pathways for spontaneous expression. This was crucial, foundational work. English story reading continued to enrich their vocabulary and understanding of cultural nuances embedded in the language. Stories painted vivid pictures, making abstract concepts concrete and new words memorable by associating them with engaging plots and relatable characters. Alex's journey proved that fluency is achievable through a combination of strategic self-practice, consistent exposure, and a fearless attitude towards making mistakes. The keys were active listening, talking to oneself, targeted vocabulary acquisition, and immersive reading, all fostering increasing confidence. The transformation wasn't just linguistic, it was personal. Alex felt more connected to the world, more capable, and more open to new opportunities. The ability to communicate effectively in English unlocked doors previously unseen, expanding their horizons far beyond imagination. The talking tips shared were not merely techniques but a philosophy of active engagement. They encouraged a shift from passive learning to proactive communication, empowering the learner to take charge of their own linguistic journey and build genuine fluency from within. Every small conversation, every internal monologue, every new word remembered, contributed to the overall masterpiece of their improved English. It was a mosaic of consistent effort, each piece vital to the complete, vibrant picture of confident communication. The final, most important lesson for how make confidence in speaking was simple: just speak. Remove the pressure of perfection, embrace the process, and trust that consistent effort will lead to progress. The journey itself builds the confidence, not just the destination. Alex, now thriving in their international role, often shared their story, inspiring others. Start small, talk to yourself, read stories, and most importantly, never stop listening and practicing, they'd advise. The path to fluency was personal, but the principles were universal, available to everyone.